Welcome everybody to the first cast of The Newbie and the Beast Age of Empires 2 tournament that I'm running on my channel. I'll be leaving a link to the Discord server for the event in the description, so you can check that out if you want to keep up with the event and even see if there's still a possibility for participation in case you're one of the lower elo players. There's still a bracket potentially waiting for you. Either way, this here is the mid-elo bracket, meaning that for this bracket we'll be having every team consist of one mid-elo player between 1550 and 1300 elo, and a pro-ish level player, or at least a 2k elo player, around that. So, that being said, this is our bracket that we've come up with for this group, and the first match that we'll be casting today is the bottom one in round 1, BB and SaltedPepper against E.G.V and Dexter. Yeah, that's the match we'll be covering today, and it's going to be VODs that I'm casting, because sadly last night I wasn't available to cast it live. But nonetheless, we'll check it out right now and see what this match has in store for us. First of all though, let's check out the draft for game 1. In case you weren't aware, on the Discord server the participating players held a vote and decided that it would be cooler to actually have the 2v2 game be the first game of the series, and that's why the 2v2 draft is the one that will be used here in game number 1. And as we can see right there, we've got BB drafting against Dexter, representing their two teams, and since it's going to be played on Nomad, we've got a bunch of good Nomad civs here. Now we can see both teams ended up with 4 civs that they now could theoretically play going into this game, so they can choose, without the opponent knowing, which civs they're actually going to be playing in the game. They can choose between the 4 civs that they each have picked. Note that this draft has no bearing on the drafts for a potential game 2 or 3. This is a best of 3, so whichever team wins 2 matches first goes on to the next round. The other team will be eliminated. Now that's it. So we've got Team BB and SaltedPepper with Vietnamese, Byzantines, Berbers, or Italians. And Dexter's team can choose between Malians, Dravidians, Bengalis, or Lithuanians. Let's hop in the game and find out what they picked and how the game actually went, shall we? There we go. Welcome here, guys. I'm excited to check this out. Obviously, I haven't seen the games yet myself either. This is a regular random map game, no special map packs or anything, just good old Age of Empires 2. And we've got Vietnamese Italians against Dravidians Malians. Let's get a quick civ overview going right now, in case some of you aren't as familiar. So we can already see these guys planting quite close together. Actually blue and green being on one team. Blue kind of sandwiched in between here. Dexter potentially going to run into some trouble here. And on the other side it is BB that is kind of sandwiched in between the 2 enemy players, so to speak. E.G.V, El Gordo, Valor, and SaltedPepper more on the flanks, potentially in easier positions. All the civilizations that were chosen here are obviously decent on Nomad. I think there's a lot of merit to all of them, and I'll quickly again show you the overviews for the other 2 civs without actually being able to go into any detail on them, because it's just 4 civs and that's a lot to cover for one early game. And that being said, it seems the Dravidians actually were able to complete their TC first, which on Nomad is always a slim but relevant advantage. Also, interestingly, in terms of the docks, we've got 2 players of the same team being relatively close to each other. That's BB and Pepper, having their docks on the same side, and Gordo as well as Dexter on complete opposite ends of the map. So that could be difficult if indeed both parties opted to go for a fight early in feudal age. It might be difficult for Dexter to actually get on over there in time. But that being said, let's actually remove the civ overviews now and see what these players end up going for here in terms of the villager numbers. It is all pretty reasonable still, but already first fishing ship out for Dexter, indicating a pretty smooth start for him. If we compare the town center locations, obviously everybody has chosen to plant straight on a wood line. And let's see what the additional resources they have actually are. Got gold right in the TC range for BB. That's extremely useful. If you're sandwiched in between two players like that, it can be difficult to get resources early on. Seems she might not actually struggle that much in that regard. Stone also reasonably close, but could theoretically be denied. On the other side, no resources directly in the TC for Dexter. Maybe that could be a bit more difficult than for them to get to their rest. Oh, just to clarify, by the way, SaltedPepper and Dexter, the two guys in the west here, are actually the high elo, the beast level players, whereas the newbie class would be BB and E.G.V. So, yeah, actually, let's see if the beast Dexter will have meaningfully better performance than BB here, as both of them are in similar situations, or how BB can hold up right here in the middle. That's we'll be looking to see, as I think that might be the pivotal battlefield, so to speak, on this map, although it could also be heavily dependent on how the water fight actually ends up going, so there's definitely options. In terms of the civs that were chosen, Italians just typically really decent on nomad. Cheap fishing ships allows you just to set up a bit of an easier eco early on, and with the cheaper up cost as well, should be able to get the early game rolling extremely smoothly. Vietnamese on the other side also maybe an underrated bonus, but you see where the opponent's TC actually ends up being built. Now, in this map, they might have scouted each other either way, but nonetheless, it is just useful to have this intel. So we see right there, you can pinpoint exactly where that TC is. You know when the opponent is taking boars, for example, so that's a little bit of extra intel. Interestingly, seems like the dock has not been spotted yet by BB's team. If we look on the other side, they too don't seem to have a clue where the opponent's docks are, but I'm entirely positive that they know where the two town centers are. They should have seen the initial borders, so to speak, when going up. So I would assume that they are all aware of where the opposition is located at. And we're approaching the time where we're expecting the age ups, and there's definitely two options here on Nomad. Every time you can try to opt for fast castling, you can try to opt for fast feudal and then fight on water, or just even go for actual land aggression. There's definitely options. The Spanish, for example, one of the most premier, highly rated nomad civs, they really like to go for their fast castles and to try and exploit that unique unit. We'll see if these guys have similar plans. But, well, speaking of the Italians earlier, you see that fast uptime for them could be potentially scary, going up on 22 eco units at 17 villagers and 5 fishing ships. Is SaltedPepper relatively early compared to all the others. Also the Dravidians, though, with a really nice uptime, and getting that free wood when reaching the next age can be really good here. You can get a free second dock out of that, for example, but you can also do some land military if you feel like that is necessary. BB going out to stone early now, thinking that well, she might end up needing some stone here for towers, potentially. Heavily on gold right now, actually. Is definitely interesting. We'll see how that goes. Everybody now obviously aware of where each other are at, and so they're fighting real hard for positioning here. It's getting a bit messy. The walls and towers and outposts, everything is being attempted. now, well, no actual towers going up yet. So we just saw it was actually SaltedPepper that got up to the next age first and is now queuing up galleys. Not out of the ordinary for the Italians. The other side, El Gordo Valor, doing the same thing with his Dravidians. And putting up a second dock indeed. We'll see how that'll go, because there was no second dock actually planted by SaltedPepper. And actually it seems Dexter is the one that is looking to go for fast castle here. That's likely why the walls are being planted the way that they are. You see the blacksmith going out. Just looking at the resources here, the bottom right corner. 600 food, 300 gold already. Looking like a relatively smooth fast castle for them. Issue being, you're giving up all the map pressure on the way to FC. And there's not a ton of resources here in the TC range. So we'll see if that'll end up being a problem. Finally, BB also arriving in the next age. We'll see what the options there are going to be. And, well, it's going to be a tower for now. But BB2, resource-wise, could be going for a fast castle. This should end up being a rather effective tower, denying this entire wood line, and that's part of why I'm saying it's a bit tricky. We see Castle Edge on the way for Dexter, so that build was rather smooth, having walled in the gold villages in the north here. I'm not sure SaltedPepper has actually spotted this, but yeah, he definitely has, otherwise there wouldn't be a tower coming out here. And with the scouts, that's how they scouted it. Alright, now already on E.G.V, being quite oppressive here. The Italians, that early uptime really being put to use here. Respectable 2 galleys out and 6 scouts. There's definitely a lot of investment into military here. And you can see those gold miners, man, they're suffering. They're really getting pushed off of this, and that was the kind of the only resource that Dexter was controlling. So 1 minute away from Castle Age. We'll see what they'll go from there. Only 200 gold left, so can be a bit tricky getting up there to actually get meaningful army out. Let's see what they'll attempt to do. They're really cornered in here right now. Should be tricky. And on the other side, also that's the galleys harassing the green fishing ships. Where are the green galleys actually? They're a bit difficult to spot here. There's supposed to be 6 of them. They're a bit difficult to spot on this minimap, but they're kind of just patrolling around the island still. So far, Pepper with a lot of military and putting it to great use as well. There's Castle Age for Dexter, but obviously no stone, so it's not like a castle drop is about to come in. Really unfortunate positioning in that regard. And we'll go for the stable. Let's see what unit type they'll actually end up opting into. BB also on the way to Castle Age now, with a much more protected economy, or much less threatened. So it should be good in that regard. So we'll see, we're still getting these galleys annoying each other, trying to snipe some fishing ships. It's 7 galleys, still more being queued up by E.G.V. Wonder if there's maybe a bit too much focus on water at this point by their team. Score-wise, still very even though. I don't think they're that mad about the game state. And the TC being attempted in the north. Now on the go to try and secure those resources somehow. Not a bad choice. Well, was gonna be difficult to get it back any other way. Scouts for Pepper sweeping in and out here. And causing a lot of distraction too. Well, even fires now on the map. For Dexter, this one, you can see how it's really difficult for Dexter to get involved on the other side of the map. But also not a lot of gold, so can't even make a lot of navy in the first place. Monastery stables out right now. And on the raid with some knights. This is extremely unpleasant, of course, for SaltedPepper, who's still 2 minutes away from Imp. Or from Castle Age, of course. No monks, therefore, available. Still with his scouts. Is a threat, but one that is successfully being kept at bay so far by the spearmen, and the TC drop in the north also protecting that gold. Still, decent value here for Pepper being able to grab these villagers and not tanking a lot of free spearmen hits in the process, so that is actually pretty good value here. Castle drop now from BB, and the pressure on Dexter is pretty great at this point. BB was on stone the entire time. Now able to push, well, Dexter out of his base entirely. Look at this, both wood lines completely idled, no farm space even. This TC is just kind of existing right now. Really tough spot to be in here. We'll see what the reaction will end up being. Castle Age also about to come in for SaltedPepper, and El Gordo really still pretty far away. He's got the resources, but he hasn't queued up Castle Age yet. Still suffering these raids here. Ooh, that's a rough one. Ouch. Well, one of the lower villager numbers for him here, despite not being up to Castle Age yet, so he's really quite delayed. Dexter really needing that help at this very moment, I would assume. Well, let's see if he can hold on. He's got the Mangonel out himself now. That successful fast castle, at least the timing was pretty good. He's threatening quite a bit. Double monastery by SaltedPepper. Okay, they're not playing around. Where's the gold for them? Actually, yeah, okay. SaltedPepper with gold in the west, completely untouched so far. I'm not sure Dexter actually knows about that even, and still the scout raid's finding some villager picks. That is such an annoyance. So now both BB and SP going for their additional TCs. El Gordo, well, 9 fishing ships, 8 galleys to protect that, I suppose. But on land really had not been a factor yet. And even a third TC in the very north there for Salted. Oh, looks like that's going to be a rather safe space. The dock villager. Dock about to be abandoned here, but it seems the focus for Team SaltedPepper, and BB is going to be entirely on land. That's Rattan archers out of the castle for BB, and that's another menace here. Okay, a lot of villager picks possible, and these, look how tanky these archers are. That's Vietnamese for y'all. 5 pierce armor, they can tank some TC shots, no problem. Dexter even getting a knight converted now by this double monastery monks. It's really looking a bit difficult right now, the land war for Dexter and El Gordo. Can they make up for that on water somehow and sustain through this? Right now the pressure is pretty great on them, so it could be difficult in the long run, but their fishing economy probably keeping them afloat, so to speak. Let's check out, maybe we can see the resource collected overall. It's all pretty even, SP having a bit more, BB a bit less than the enemy team. So resource wise, until this point it hasn't been too problematic for either side. Of 4th TC on the way for Pepper. It just seems like the pressure is so much greater on Dexter at this point that I'm not sure how well they're going to be able to hold up. Spearman, of course, doing a decent job against these scouts, but what to do against the Rattan? The Rattan still being annoying, and now taking out the Spearmen slowly. It's a rough fight to have to fight right now for Dexter. He's going to need assistance soon, I assume. But with the siege right now, trying to keep the archers at bay as well. Scouts come in again and just going to try and snipe these scorpions. They don't do a ton of damage, but they're able to get it done in the end. I think Redemption just came in for the blue player here. Dexter going to try and convert siege or buildings, possibly, I'm not sure. But right now he's kind of just getting overwhelmed with military here. I don't see this going on too well for much longer for them. And look at how these villagers are all having to migrate as a result. Oh, and on the other side there's already more Rattan waiting for them. How many villages are they about to lose here? This has really not been going well for them. Trying for another TC up north. Finally, crossbows coming out from El Gordo. Can they create a bit of a relief here? It seems rough against Rattan archers. It's not the fight that you're typically looking to get into. And BB already with Botkin. Same thing for the crossbows, I suppose. But that doesn't look too great. And wow, they're really looking to force the issue now. Forward castle on the freshly placed TC. Now, is this castle going to go up? We'll see about that. But if it's not denied, it seems real tough to come back from this one for Dexter, who's kind of just squashed in between these two players. And it looks like the pressure is getting to a critical level at this point. Conversion as well. There's just barely any military here on land to fight back with for Team Dexter and El Gordo. Castle is just going to go up. This tower not going to be in time, I don't think. Yeah, abandons that plan as well. And the crossbowmen are nice and all, but what can they do against these Rattan archers for the Vietnamese? Such a beautiful unit, man. I love those. I love to see those. Really decent coordination as well. They've done a great job attacking together here, BB and Salted, and now they are Salted at least, grabbing Redemption as well, so going to be able to handle that siege, perhaps with the monks. 5 monks available, so yeah, should definitely be able to fight against Mangonels. Loses that trade, decently done by El Gordo. But the castle is going up, so overall, it seems BB and SP in just such a great position. Their eco's not really being raided at all, I guess, except for this. But 4 TCs spread out for Salted across the map. And look how little eco space Dexter actually has. Oh, it's tragedy once again. Oh, this entire wood line. How many? That's 13 Rattan. They're just one-shotting these villagers, completely massacring this entire wood line. Oh, poor Dexter. Look at the villager numbers, 43. At this point, the eco deficit, man, he's 30 wills behind SP. Gordo pretty much even villagers with BB, so no advantage on the other side of the map either. The conversions, was that 2 conversions? That was 2 conversions as well. Oh boy, it's all going wrong right now for Team El Gordo. And another wave of villagers murdered by Rattan archers. They tap out at this point. Dexter has to concede. And that was an entertaining high-action game number 1, guys. Congrats to Team BB and SaltedPepper for that one. That was really nicely done. We saw the draft right here. And that means, just as an explanation, that means that the losing team, so in this case El Gordo and Dexter, they will now get to decide which 1v1 they want to play next. They can choose either it's going to be the Beast against the Beast level player, so that will be Dexter against SaltedPepper, or they can choose to use the 2 newbie players, so El Gordo against BB, and it's going to be their pick. The losing team gets to pick which one of these 1v1s they want to opt into next here. And let's see, it seems they're choosing BB against El Gordo. So that is going to be game 2. So that being said, whoops, I'm getting an error code. Looks like the game is still running fine though. That being said, let's check out the draft. Now, in case you didn't know, for the draft, there's 3 maps in this tournament's map pool: Arabia, Enclosed, and Lowland. For the 1v1 maps, that is. It's only these 3, and both players select one map in a hidden draft, and then the maps are revealed, and the map they will have to play on will be the 3rd remaining map that neither player selected. If, however, both players selected the same map, then that map will be the one that is played. So the map draft is quite some mind games, pretty fun. And in this case, BB selected Arabia, and Pato, that is E.G.V, selected Lowland. So actually Enclosed is going to be the map that will be used in this game. Knowing that Enclosed will be the map, the Civ draft ended up going as follows. So we had BB select Portuguese, Britons, Byzantines, and Italians. Pato going with Malians, Franks, Incas, and Gujaras. And the 2 snipes respectively coming in. So both players are left with 2 civs that they can pick from here in game 2. That's going to be Britons or Italians for BB. Malians or Franks for Pato on enclosed. Well, let's see which ones of these civs they decided to use. It's an interesting one here, because you have to choose one of your two civs, not knowing which one the other player will choose. For Pato, he knows the opponent will be playing an archer civ, with the option, a possibility being the Italians, which would then maybe make a cavalry civ less attractive. Maybe the Malians, the better overall civ against archer civs. Who knows? It's one possible way of thinking about this. On BB's side, you'll play against Malians or against Franks. Not really a traditionally strong archer civ. On either of those, maybe you want to play Italians just in case Franks are being chosen. Or against the Malians. Maybe she likes the Britons better. I'm not sure. We'll see what they ended up picking in game actually. So let's jump in here. Game 2, and it's 1-0 for BB's team after that game 1. So El Gordo, Valor needing this win to keep their team alive in this best of 3. And we'll check out the civ overviews for this one on a map that I personally like a lot. That's why I chose it for this tournament's map pool. I'm just selfish like that. It is enclosed. Well, the Malians were indeed the pick in the end for El Gordo. A civ that is pretty interesting, and barracks units getting 1 pierce armor per age, scaling up throughout the game. Pretty good bonus to have when you know that the opponent is going for an archer civ, right? So I understand that pick. Other stuff about this civ, it has all the gunpowder options. It's lacking some crucial blacksmith stuff, such as the blast furnace or bracer final attack upgrades for all the units, and it doesn't have the halberdier, which shouldn't be that big a problem in this matchup, however. Also the amazing gold bonus, of course, that the Malians received, and decent with the building cost reduction, just a bit of a discount so that you don't have to spend as much wood. Then on the other side for BB, it's the Britons, and a win here would end the series and allow BB and SaltedPepper to move on to the semi-finals. So definitely first match point, you want to make use of that. It's the Britons for her civ that I personally like to play as a lot as well. It's just the archer civilization, kind of the classic one. It has a perfect blacksmith though, so you're not even as pigeonholed into archers. Now you always want to use archers, but you also have some other decent options to add in there if the opponent forces you to. Most notably, of course, the halberdiers, solid halberdiers for the Britons. Even perfect champions that you can research if the opponent, for example, is a meso civ that's going heavily into eagles. So it's not just 100 archers that you put on the field, but you diversify your army comp a bit, depending on what the opponent ends up making as well. Now, maybe just to add in here, these two players are, in terms of elo, rather similar. I don't have the exact elo of them today, but they were both around about the 1300s, with BB peaking in the high 1400s even, so maybe the higher upside on her part. I'm not sure where exactly the level of play or the elo for both players in this very moment is. So let's check out what they end up doing. And again, the elo on the ladder is oftentimes just reflective of your favorite maps. If you're an arena player, then the elo is reflective of your arena skill. For most players, it might just be indicative of the Arabia skill. But we don't actually know what these two players specialize in, and I doubt that it's the enclosed map that I like so much. Well, and even I, who is a big fan of this map, can't play it at all. So it'll be fun to see how they'll end up playing this one out. BB actually scouting forward first. We saw right here, El Gordo with very little scouting done might assume that BB has come from the east here with the scout movement that she displayed. But obviously doesn't know where exactly she's at, whereas for BB, she's spotted the opponent. She knows, okay, we're actually really close here, and the best thing I like about Britons on this map is you can reasonably expect to be able to range the opponent's woodline with your own archers. some point in late Castle or early Imperial Age. So, whereas I still think that the tower play on this map, in the woodlines between the two players, is still heavily underused. With the Britons, it's even reasonable to just range the opponent with regular archers, crossbows, and not even having to commit a tower there to harass the woodline, which is just something I always find funny or enjoyable. Oops, that's actually, I think the logo should be a bit adjusted. We'll see. I'm still trying to find the ideal setup for this whole overlay stuff. But we're just gonna roll with it. And both players on the way to feudal now. El Gordo ended up going with one villager earlier. The 18 mil uptime. Idle times for both players really positive at this point. Maybe for El Gordo there was a bit of a hold up at some point, but that could have been caused during the scout skirmish, which is quite distracting in the early game, especially when you don't expect it as early as that. Again, it's El Gordo who ends up scouting forward, and he'll get that feudal age first, so BB is going to have to be careful. She won't necessarily know that the opponent went up earlier to the next stage. I don't know if she was actually paying that close attention. But it's going to be El Gordo that's going to get that scout buff first. And right about now, BB is probably quite happy that she didn't engage that scout again. Now able to get up to the next edge as well, and this is the perfect time to take the fight. You see El Gordo now on the back foot, going to have to abandon this whole scouting endeavor and pulling out of there, but still on a heavy HP deficit there with the scout. Maybe just wants to find out before he loses the scout where the production buildings are coming, which ones are coming, and yeah, what BB's strategy might be. Has found out about the gold miners, so that is a worthwhile discovery potentially, knowing where the opponent has got his eco. We also saw that archery range there as well. Puts up the archery range at home, blacksmith right beside. So far the builds for both players extremely similar. Queuing up their archers, getting their blacksmiths up, and going their merry ways. Still with really good idle times. Now, these players aren't pro players by any means, right? It's 1400, but they're playing this really cool so far. For this being a tournament game, right? We're playing for prestige, even for some money here. So I appreciate their skill already. We'll see. Fletching in for both parties as well. It really is quite similar. These two definitely on the same kind of level. It's a big stakes game. Already an elimination game for the southern player here, at least. Oh, that is just scout engaging. No big trouble yet. I always like to see this. This is kind of one of the most favorite parts of mine in pro games, is when the archer numbers or scout numbers are low and you can really see who's got the movement down, who can get the more efficient trades here. With big armies, it's oftentimes not as interesting, right? Because I mean, you just kind of look at the upgrades and the numbers, and then you can kind of tell who will win every time. But this is quite interesting. Low numbers, you can make some outplays happen with the right movement, positioning, whatever. And both players keeping on coming with these archers. In theory, if BB's archery range is working faster, should give her an advantage, especially when fighting so close to home here. It should be a decent trade, but actually, the overall KD is 3-2 in BB's favor, the scout being included in there. So neither player getting a big advantage out of this one so far. We saw El Gordo Valdo at the end of this trade actually research archer padding. And now going into some skirmishes, I wonder if BB has actually seen that. Because just before the fight was disengaged, El Gordo had that armor tech come in. So if she realized that, she might have an interesting choice to make herself now, knowing that the opponent has invested into that upgrade. Now, all of a sudden, you are not going to want to engage in even number archer fights anymore. And you're going to either want to add in some more skirmishes, or even go for a stable potentially yourself. Again, all depending on how hard you want to commit to this feudal age battle. because it does seem like El Gordo is much more keen on fighting here than BB actually is. You see him come forward now with a bunch of skirmishes mixed in that BB hadn't known that would come. Archer padding 30 seconds away still. This is a hard losing battle that she's kind of forced to fight right now to preserve her eco, and she's just trying to get up to Castle Age, I assume. But now forced to queue up some skirms herself. Take some quite heavy losses here against that enemy army. Now the villagers actually don't take as much damage, but due to the bonus damage on these skirmishes, the archers just round about getting one shot by this little force that El Gordo has sent forward, and still keeps on sending in more of those. Now taking a bunch of free damage here. The micro not ideal, but having BB's gold runners on the run, gold miners rather, certainly already causing some relevant eco damage here, despite not actually killing any villagers yet. But that's the first villager kill right here, and it's partial success for sure. Now the question is, will BB be able to get up to Castle Age and make a push from there, take back some of that advantage? Right now she's losing out a little bit, both army and villager wise, but is clicking up as we see, and El Gordo still quite far away from being able to follow. So it'll be interesting to see if she can make use of this Castle Age timing. Fully walled at home now, there's no danger at all of these skirmishers breaking in there. You're not gonna break house walls, not even palisade walls, with skirmishers, that's for sure. BB kind of all but 3 archers have died, so not a lot of army left to upgrade here. It'll be interesting. So it's the Britons, right? You know that they have the cheaper town centers in terms of wood, so it is an option, I guess, for her to just use her early uptime and just place some town centers. Just try to boom away against this. With TCs being present, it's going to be extremely difficult for El Gordo to do any more damage. In Feudal Age, would need to go Castle Age as well to try and push that, and that's a lot of skirms at this point already for El Gordo. BB sees all of that, so we'll likely go for a siege workshop to try and defend this, is my guess. Again, I wouldn't mind just adding a TC on her part at this point as well. I think going triple TC would be a bit too much at this point, but adding 1 TC, putting up a siege workshop, I think that should be kind of all she needs at this point to defend against this army, with El Gordo still not even able to click up. Is going to be quite a bit behind here, so let's see what her choice will be. Gets her archers caught in the very east, so it's definitely not going to be crossbows, but well, with the stable she's actually going to open with knights, and that's interesting because she doesn't have any gold. We see right there her gold has been entirely cut off, so she's relying on punching her way through to that gold with the knights that she's making right now. Well, let's see how well this is going. She goes out, engages this. It should be going fine because skirmishers can't actually harm knights at all, and the archer numbers in here are extremely small. Look at that guy, barely taking any damage with the 3 pierce armor. The archers are doing 2 damage per shot, and there's not a lot of them, so BB now able to move out there. Yeah, was the right play. I would have been going siege here, but that would have been a mistake. The stable with the knights just was enough to free herself up there, so good decision on her part. Gets a lot of picks here as Gordo can do nothing but run home, actually losing a ton of skirmishes here, which would have been extremely useful to hold on to. Right against the Britons, you would have liked to keep those skirmishes, because you're gonna need them later on regardless. Looks like finally the first knight has been taken out, but still BB happy with how she was able to beat this back. Goes to the siege workshop now. Seems quite reasonable. Actually dropping the 3rd TC already, but in the north. Ooh, the scouts from the other side here, causing quite a bit of damage. Oh, BB didn't wall in that those TC villagers because she reasonably, I guess, didn't expect anybody to harass her here. I can't really fault her for that, because it seemed like she had just killed all the enemy units there. But sneaky play with the scouts by El Gordo. Gets something back out of this at least. Eco KD 5 to 0 at this point. Wow, so she really did lose quite a lot of villagers there. We see both players now in Castle Age, and the villager numbers in El Gordo's favor. Is that going to change though with all these TCs already up and running? Oh, there's decisions to make right now for El Gordo, and I think you need to bring some Siege Monk action here to actually do damage. Otherwise, Britons are just gonna scale and boom away into the late game here, which you probably want to avoid, and that's exactly why the monastery forward is being dropped. I like this play. Yep, can't complain about that. Now finds out about the 30C if that hadn't been clear already. BB taking the villager lead already. Gordo still on that 1 TC at home. Oh. Let's see if they can do enough damage here. Botkin is in. Lot of crossbows. 17 actually, with yet more being queued up. What is the Britain's response going to be? It's a mix of different siege units. Even monastery has come up here as knights are being added in by the Malians here. So army comp for BB should be fine actually. As long as she doesn't allow the siege units to get caught by the opponent's knights. I think she's pretty well set up to defend this push. Let's see. Gordo gonna need to bring some siege weapons themselves, and then maybe with both players going into siege and monk, they should be able to, well, at that point it just comes down to better army management, I suppose. But damage will need to be done soon here. BB really taking off here in terms of eco numbers. For now, just relics being picked up. Not going to be enough for El Gordo. I don't think you want to go to the late game behind against the Britons. That doesn't sound appealing to me. Mangonel. That's the second Mangonel even for BB. How many monks does she have? It's 2 right now. Well, might need a few more monks once these knights start raiding. I'm not sure. It sounds a bit scary. Has engaged the archer force though in the north with the siege, and at this point she needs to be careful, but good positioning of the monks. Knows exactly where the knights are moving. That's great management here, actually able to protect the siege totally. Loses 1 monk though, but that was a good job by the Mangonel. Loses the second monk. Now at this point the siege is fair game. The knights can dive in and should be able to kill all of these siege units. Alright, that's the first one going down. Second Mangonel also a goner. And the Scorpion likely to fall as well. That is a trade that I think El Gordo is going to be happy with. Take that any day of the week. 2 more Mangonels available to try and start a push himself. Now, he's going to lose that monk, unfortunately. But since there's not really a huge knight force from BB, it should be manageable. That's the 1 knight in the south, still. So that's not threatening the Mangonels as of this moment. All these crossbows have taken a lot of damage. See these 13 units, not even half of their HP left on them. Mangonels have done quite some damage there, and there's another one ready. Gordo really gotta be careful stepping up like this, but as long as the Mangonels are alive and firing, they're good. Already down 20 villages though. This push will need to be accelerated a bit to stop BB from running away with this. At least the second TC is up now for El Gordo, but that's still not gonna close the villager gap. Question for BB now, what does she do about these Mangonels? Is she just going pure Mangonels against it, or is she gonna add in a few more knights herself? It doesn't seem like that is her plan right now. Gets the crossbow upgrade finally, as some archers have been added in. Well, in Castle Age with fully upgraded crossbows, you can trade pretty well against Mangonels there as the Britons. Got a lot of range, obviously. That of 1. An extra range being extremely useful. You can see 8 range on them, whereas Mangonels 7 range. Quite difficult to micro against British crossbows actually. First TC going down. That's the kind of damage El Gordo needs here to be able to close this gap and I saw a ping go down here, or a notification. This wood line is extremely thin already. It's 3 trees thick at the thinnest points. This is extremely harassable by crossbows, if either party notices this, honestly. I'd like to see this be contested. I think that is still an underused tech, so to speak, on enclosed maps. Maybe not able to get that conversion in the end, and that's a lot of mangonels to be careful about. I said how the British crossbows were pretty good against mangonels, but if it's 4 mangonels that the opponent is using and you can't really micro-well between buildings because there's just not enough space to, then that's a difficult fight to be taking here. BB recognizes, doesn't want to engage him here, just keeps giving up more ground. Monastery going down, doesn't have another one there, so can't add any more monks of her own. Only 1 monk remaining. That could become awkward. Villager lead almost 30 at this point, but El Gordo about to take the TC lead, so might be able to finally start closing that gap for the first time in this game. Is it enough of a lead for BB though? We'll see. Knights coming in, a lot of knights, a lot of crossbows, a lot of mangonels. Potent army that El Gordo is pushing with here. The TC is already full and there's a bunch of villagers still catching shots. BB will have to do something about this situation. Snipes the first mangonel, that's a good start. Let's see how this trade will go. Gets a really good shot there, not taking any return damage. She'll need to put a hold to this push as she loses one of her mangonels now. Sends in the knights. I like the choice to add in more of those, as I mentioned before. That's gonna help with the mangonels, and that's just the engagement she needed. Able to kill the mangonels there. Will lose the knight to a conversion, however, but the crossbow numbers should be enough to keep the knights at bay. The Malians here with good upgrades on their knights. Still lacking the attack improvements though, and BB actually moving forward. No ballistics yet, so that's tricky. I always say you can't really fight cavalry with crossbows until you have ballistics, because you just don't land anything. Landing are the mangonel rocks though, because that was an amazing shot, completely annihilating this crossbow force, and this trade should be going extremely well for BB here, right? All the knights are going down. That's a massive swing in this game. Still almost the 20 villager lead. And a really, really worthwhile trade at the end here. Still losing a few crossbows now to the mangonel. Not ideal. But wow, that was a good one. That was really, really good. She'll take that. Has kind of taken back the military lead, so to speak. Resource-wise, both armies actually pretty much exactly the same strength. BB with this amount of crossbow numbers is very difficult to defeat, I would assume. Still falling back, and with additional TCs being added in the back, I think this is a good spot for the Britons to be in. Mangonel just sniped from range, cannot even retaliate whatsoever. This is difficult for El Gordo. Has lost a lot of army here trying to push. Has tacked heavily into cavalry, so I understand the choice to add some more knights in here against these crossbows. The siege has been extremely difficult to make use of, so that might not be too bad a choice actually. Still in the middle, it's now been chopped through. This is a potential raiding opportunity. Where are the knights? The knights are coming. Great choice, great realization by El Gordo. It's only 1 knight for now, so luckily for BB she won't get punished too hard for this. But man, this is enclosed for y'all. The wood line in the middle, it's always gonna get extremely thin at some point. And this point has come early in this game. BB finally realizes this and is going to try and wall this up, so the knights at least aren't going to be coming in. She's actually pushing with some spearmen here. She'll get that pikeman upgrade in just a second. As I mentioned, the Britons' halberdy is extremely good. Should be quite useful against these knights that El Gordo is focusing on. He's gonna try and punch through here to get another point of pressure going. That is extremely valuable, having this here be open, but it seems that BB has closed it off for good now. Ballistics coming in for El Gordo. BB still not thinking about it. It seems. I don't think she's even got any university, does she? I can't see. Oh no, there is it. There it is. Okay, so she should be adding those ballistics as soon as possible. El Gordo has his completed. And will try to push here. Now bring in some crossbows even. I like that choice. Being extremely annoying about this. Oops. But giving up the forward that he had built a lot of knights in the meantime. Neither player looking to go in. We're gonna get a huge battle here in Castle Age that could potentially decide the game. Pikeman upgrade is in, so this is a really difficult time to fight at right now for El Gordo. Despite the pikemen not actually being that well upgraded, they're just so effective against knights, at least in terms of resource efficiency. Mangonel's coming forward. Can BB micro against this well enough? The pikemen are taking on the knights. The numbers are extremely uneven though, so not a lot of knights end up going down. Unlike the siege workshop, that does end up going down. Not the biggest engagement here, but we see a lot of bodies for both sides sink into the ground, and it seems the middle was opened up once more. Really nicely played by El Gordo, sniping the repair villagers with the crossbows presumably. Gets in with some knights. The harassment is real. EcoKD looking massive in his favor, but still down about 25 wills. Needs to do a lot more damage here as the Mangonel trades for BB are going amazing. Wow, she's doing great here. Can she keep the knights at bay though? They're just wreaking havoc underneath her gold TC at this point. Loses the Mangonel in the end as well. And is able to stabilize. Now she's going forward to raid though. This could be tough for El Gordo. Already behind in villagers. Now with the crossbows on her. Luckily the ballistics are still in the queue for BB. So El Gordo should be suffering a lot worse here. But this is tough, man. Now there's two fronts for both players to worry about. That's a lot of APM that you need to put into this. And it seems the eastern front is going really well for BB. And then on the west here, it's looking exactly the same. El Gordo, can he do something to change this up? Maybe the elite skirmisher upgrade is what he needs. That could be a thing. Castle attempted now for BB to kind of secure the eastern frontier. It's a new wave of knights coming in. A lot of knights actually moving forward. But with ballistics completed now, I don't think this is a winning fight for El Gordo. I think he could lose all the army here. This might be the deciding fight of the game. Look how many knights have dropped already. And that's the difference that ballistics makes in a crossbow against knight fight. The skirmisher is doing really well though in the center. We'll need a lot more of those on the way to Imperial Age now. Are the Malians with the Britons dropping their defensive castle and looking to push on the eastern flank. Can El Gordo stop this? What is the answer here? More siege? Just the skirmishers? Well, the skirmishers do well, even against the pikes, but especially against the crossbows. So going more heavily into skirms, as I mentioned in feudal already, is a good long-term strat against the Britons. The knights are a bit worrisome. Might still need a few monks or whatever. He has a couple of. BB still controlling the middle though. El Gordo should try and wall this off as well, otherwise BB can raid through there whenever she pleases. Oh, it looks like so far El Gordo is just falling back, giving up ground in the east here to gear up to Imperial Age. 1.5 minutes away, and with the castle being up, BB, I don't know if she's actually already added in Yeoman. She hasn't. So once she gets that tech, these crossbows are gonna get another point of range. She has the res, I assume. It looks like she could be clicking that, but I think instead she's kind of focused on going up to Imp herself at this point. That's what she's doing, using the market, and will be up to Imp 2.5-ish minutes after the opponent. Puts a castle in the west as well. Really nicely solidified eco. El Gordo still waiting a little bit longer for Imp. And going to try and use that power spike, I assume, to do some damage. Forward on the western side with the knights this time around. We haven't seen any fighting on that flank yet at all. BB doing a great job this time around, walling in these villagers, so that castle will go up. The knights in a base are going to be difficult to stop, and that's Imp. What tax is El Gordo going to grab with their limited resources here? It looks like ring archer armor is the main focus against these crossbows. That's reasonable, but the knights are still a big threat to these skirmishers. How big are the raids going to be in BB space? What can she do about this? It seems like she's pulling back kind of all of the pikemen right now, ending the push in the east for now. And she'll wait for her own tax and her own imp to come in, presumably. Ballistics on the way, or chemistry rather, on the way for El Gordo as well. That'll open up opportunity to go into gunpowder, as we said before. Both bomber cannon as well as hand cannon, I could see have a lot of value in this one. Against the pikemen especially. And there's another night raid in the north here. 1 minute to go for BB to reach imp. And well, she's being raided. Not currently pushing herself. No castle for El Gordo, so traps obviously aren't an option. These knights are being extremely annoying, and the main unit for the Malians right now are the skirmishers. No bracer though, so that's tough, as we pointed out at the start. It could be difficult because always your skirmishers lacking bracer is a big issue, but especially against the Britons, who already outrange you pretty massively. Even if you had bracer, that is quite unfortunate and difficult to manage. We see 5+4 range on the crossbows now. Still going to be able to get 2 more range. Bracer and then the yeoman upgrade will give these crossbows another 2 range, and then the arbalest upgrade to cap it off would be absolutely ridiculous. You can't really allow BB to get to all these upgrades, but what is El Gordo going to do about it is the question. Can he even stop this? Can he somehow start a push at this point before all the upgrades end up coming in? I somehow doubt it. BB coming out with the trebuchets now, although she's at the pop cap, so actually no trebuchets can start coming out. At this point she's going to have to, well, she's got a ton of stables and queued up a million light calf. But she's at the pop cap, so she's gonna need to make some tough choices here, delete some units if she wants those traps and light calf to actually come out. It's another TC in the east here, interestingly. Well, the position seems pretty well fortified at this point. Also still in control over the middle. Maybe send the light calf in through the middle, that could be a good angle. But might also just use them against the skirmishers here. Not sure what the attack is. Look at the range of these crossbows. They can just snipe this bombard cannon. It has 12 range. Well, these crossbows have 10 themselves and can also go up to 12. So that's a crazy part. We'll trade a few crossbows just to be able to take out the bombard cannon. That hasn't worked out too well for El Gordo. Obviously trebuchets might be a bit more robust than these bombard cannons are to archer fire. And the range obviously pretty important too. Castle for BB now, gonna start producing some traps there. Losing a few crossbows was probably worthwhile for her. Bombard cannon again starts firing, but gets taken out immediately. The range is just so tough. You can't defend your siege against the Britons like this. Light calf going in, not gonna be able to do a lot here, I don't think, but with the pikemen, this could be a big push here for BB. The trebuchet is up as well, and that's a lot of army pouncing and raiding all over El Gordo's army. Oh boy, this seems a bit rough. A lot of skirmishers still alive, so BB won't be able to just run through, obviously, but the trebuchet, I don't see what El Gordo has against that. Castle is going to start taking damage. His own trebuchet firing from the south now. And with these skirmishers forward, that's kind of what he has to rely on. What can he do against the cavalry, though? He needs something. He's going into camels now with the Malians. Reasonable choice. But the numbers are a bit low right now. Needs a bit more frontline for these skirmishers to be able to actually do their job. Oh, it's a pikeman raid in the west for BB. Can El Gordo deal with this double pressure from both sides? Main push in the east and some raids in the west. Pikemen extremely annoying raiding units. What is there to be done about this for him? Can he somehow stop this? If he loses this one, their team are out and eliminated from the bracket. So he's gonna try his very best to stop this from happening. Oh, Yeoman and Arbalest are coming in. These crossbows, that's the peak power spike for BB right now. Is this too much for El Gordo? Well, he's falling back with these guns right now, and you can see how the lack of a frontline is really starting to cost him. Castle goes down. The entire eastern eco is now exposed. Oh, can he somehow manage this? The obelisks are just so strong. And the range on them is ridiculous. Look at that, 11 range obelisks. That's max range. Oh no. All these trebuchets too. How many skirmishers are lying dead in front of El Gordo's gates while still being raided at home by these pikemen? It seems like he's crumbling at this point. The eco numbers are still fine, but he has to call it. No more army to defend with. Really good performance by BB here. Already on the Nomad game. Really nice team coordination, but here, just a smooth Britain's win. Really nicely done. Able to handle the raids very well. The Castle Age push as well. Closes it out here, and that means that the series is done with a 2-0 victory. Let's maybe check out the draft page again over here. That was, of course, the draft for this game. Looking at the bracket. Well, congrats to BB and SaltedPepper. They move on to the next round where they will face Eliar and PLP in the semi-finals. In this bracket, it is a first place, winner take all, €100 prize pool. So you have to win the finals to get the prize money. But already a good performance for BB and Salted. Unfortunate, of course, for their opponents, Dexter and E.G.V, who, well, just fell behind slightly on Nomad. And here in the 1v1, didn't quite manage to get over the hump either. But of course, thank them as well for participating and wish them the best going forward. BB and Salted, we're gonna see more of in the semi-finals though, and that is going to do it for this one. The first series is in the books. There's hopefully many more to come over the next few days and weeks. And this is the mid-elo bracket. The high-elo bracket has also been launched, so look forward to coverage of that as well. I might be doing some streams too of these casts if I ever am able to catch them live or if it fits my schedule. But until then, stay tuned here. Keep a lookout on this playlist on my YouTube channel where all the VODs will go into from this tournament. And yeah, thanks for following the event.